Not so very long ago, the two major political parties had a serious difference of opinion about education policies. The Democrats believed in equity, equality of educational opportunity, in resources for the neediest children, and in strengthening the teaching profession. The Republican Party believed in accountability, competition, and choice. That argument is over. It's been over since the passage of No Child Left Behind a decade ago, and in the current climate, both parties believe in accountability, competition, and choice. But hard-right Republicans won that battle, and hardly any prominent voices are left to argue for equity, desegregation, additional resources, and improving the standards of the teaching profession. No Child Left Behind marked a sea change in education policy in our history. In my view, and I say this having studied the history of American education now for over 40 years, No Child Left Behind is the single worst piece of federal education legislation ever passed. The pressure to raise test scores every year has promoted cheating, gaming the system, teaching to the test, and narrowing the curriculum. Because of No Child Left Behind, many schools and school districts have cut back on the arts, on physical education, on history, civics, foreign languages, and other subjects because they don't count. Only reading and math count. We can now see that No Child Left Behind has federalized the control of public education. The most significant decisions about what happens in the public schools are now made in Washington, D.C., not in state capitals and local districts. Washington puts up 10% of the cost of education, but it holds the reins of power. No Child Left Behind mandates that all children in grades 3 through 8 must be proficient in reading and mathematics by 2014. That's an impossible goal. No nation in the world has achieved that goal. No state in this nation will meet this goal. Last spring, Secretary Arnie Duncan predicted that more than 80% of our schools would be labeled failing schools this year. If the law is not changed by 2014, close to 100% of our schools will be labeled failing schools. I ask you, and this is a rhetorical question, can you think of any national legislative body in the world that passed a law guaranteed to declare every public school in its nation a failure? This is literally insane and certainly irresponsible. Now Secretary Duncan has offered to supply waivers to any state that wants to escape NCLB's timetable of destruction. But those that apply have to agree to accept his mandate instead of NCLB's. NCLB was based on George W. Bush's campaign claim about a miracle in Texas. I should say an alleged miracle. We tell ourselves stories, and this one was a whopper. The idea was that if you test everyone, make the school scores public, reward the schools that get big gains, embarrass the schools that don't. When you do this, so went the story, the graduation rates went up, the test scores went up, the achievement gap narrowed. There was only one catch, which we didn't figure out until later, although some people warned of it at the time. None of it was true. It was a good story, though. We now know that there was no Texas miracle. Congress bought the story by overwhelming majorities and passed this dreadful law. The philosophy of the law is simple. It's sort of like Foucault, measure and punish. When a school can't meet the impossible targets of NCLB, the sanctions get worse year after year, with the ultimate sanction of fire the principal, fire half the staff or all of the staff, close the school, convert it to a charter, give it to the state, or turn it over to private management. There is little or nothing in this law to support or encourage educators and schools. There's nothing to inspire, but there is a lot of fear, intimidation, humiliation, sanctions, and punishments, ending and firing and closing. No wonder so many educators are demoralized. Congress should repeal NCLB forthwith. It should be replaced by a federal policy that supports equity for the neediest students and promotes a sound education for all. Congress shouldn't tell schools or districts how to reform, Because Congress doesn't know how to reform schools. This is a ridiculous idea. Congress should have policies that help schools that enroll large numbers of low-performing students, not the current policies that punish them and stigmatize them. But the corporate reformers do love testing and accountability for other people's children. They wouldn't want their own children in a school that had no arts, no time for play, and that spent weeks preparing for tests of basic skills. Nor would they want their children in schools where class sizes are soaring. Even now, and I just read this the other day, there are schools in Detroit, possibly the nation's poorest district, now under a corporate reform takeover, where classes have 40 to 50 children in a single classroom. This is not good education, and it's a disaster for the children of Detroit. Last spring, Bill Gates told the nation's governors that children should have larger classes. It's a way of saving money. But he would not tolerate that for his children. Bill Gates and Arne Duncan both said that districts should not pay teachers more for master's degrees or for their experience, because that's what the economists, or at least some economists, the ones they like, told them. But I don't understand the logic of that. How will our schools improve if our teachers have less education, less experience, and larger classes? It doesn't make any sense.